Oh, we're recording. Yay. So we just have sort of free access to switches and things in a cupboard in the office. And if you need to try it with your caseload, then you try it. And then we'll discuss it in supervision and get some goals around it and, to make sure that things are working or not working. So that's kind of that. We have I think 5 iPads with like a number of apps on them for communication. So we've been really lucky in the past. We've approached a lot of what's the word I'm thinking of? A lot of trusts that give money to people, and we've been really fortunate to get quite a good amount of funding. So what that means for us is that we don't have to go on the TalkLink wait list and wait for the 18s pool equipment. We can just trial things for as long as we need, managing our own equipment. The next thing I sort of have my eye on for, if we can get some money for it, is switch scanning software. If we can locate a not being used laptop somewhere in the office to install that on, that's sort of what I've got my eyes on next.
Well, thank you so much, Beth. Really interesting to hear how you guys work across the motu as well, and to know that there are some differences in those areas. Would you kind of say that by the end of when your involvement, as they start to turn 6, do you have any strategies for that transition, bits and pieces, or are there some challenges around that for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, typically most of the children that we work with tend to go to a specialist school. So obviously, by the time they go to school, that can be any time from 5 to 6. They're usually pretty well supported by well, that's what we hope, with equipment and with communication methods by the time they go to school. So there doesn't really tend to be any sort of difficulty. The most difficulty that we experience is if understandably, if they're level 2 CAT, and if we can't meet their needs because of access or complexity or whatever that is, that tends to be where we experience a bit of difficulty. So it's just about managing the finite resources that we all have, really, as SLTs.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Beth. It was lovely to hear some more about CCS disability. And later on, we'll have time. We're setting up breakout rooms where people can kind of interact and have some questions to talk about as well. Our next speakers, if my screen will let me scroll, is Chen and Amy from the Ministry of Education, and they're based in Auckland.
I'm Chen.
Hi, I'm Amy.
And we're both based in West Auckland office. We work depending on the geographical location. So Amy and I, we work in different patches, but share the similar work. The age group Ministry of Education Learning Support work with is technically from birth to 21, but into school, it depends on whether the students have ORS funding, whether there's ongoing needs. So it's slightly different. And until term 4 last year, our office was the last one across all ministry offices to have the early intervention team and school teams divided. So people work specifically in early intervention teams for children before school, and then by the time they transition to school, we pass them on to the school team. And that division is no longer there, so we decided to go back to where everybody is like working, and so we work across ages. So the criteria for our service in early intervention is more moderate to severe, depending on the difficulty. And also we look at a lot at the curriculum, like te whariki, how's the child deal with, independence, self-care, well-being, participation in a classroom, specifically looking at natural settings like at home, and also in kindergarten, preschools, daycare, or play centres. However, for school, the criteria is slightly different.
For school, it's more severe criteria, and we only really work in the school environment, supporting the teacher raising one around the child at school. And we do this based on the New Zealand curriculum. And then we probably are quite limited in how much support we can stay in. That's usually we're saying maybe a couple of terms, and then if it's more severe, we get down a little bit longer. So that is quite different for the service for the ages.
Yeah, and the type of service that we offer is more like, we always say to parents and teachers, we work in our natural settings. So we go for home visits, or visits at kindergarten or preschool, or anywhere that matters to the child, and we're more working to support adults around this child instead of doing one-on-one therapy.
Yeah, so more of an advice and guidance service.
Yeah, here and there we do some sessions with children with speech sound difficulties, but that's slightly different. So the next thing I think is talking about the processes for accessing AAC within our service. Would you like to talk a little bit?
Yeah, we've got call boards available to be made up and use in trial as needed in the offices. All the offices have them. And then we've got the Cat 1 trained therapists within the offices as well. So we can do a year-long training to get certified, and then we would support other SLTs to make an application. So they would have to put a referral through to have a co-worker, and then we will pick them up. Yeah, pick up the case and then kind of support them through the trial process, writing the report to get any additional devices that they might need.
Yeah, and I guess each office is slightly different with the equipment they have. Like, say, for example, in our office, we, apart from call board, we also have switches, pod books, and PICs. But I don't think a lot of the SLTs are using them currently. It's more from previously, and they're all just sitting there on the shelf. Most people would be using call board, and we do have 2 iPads that can be loaned to families, but that each office has very, very different policies around loaning devices, because we know we don't have the insurance on the device. What if it breaks? Who would be responsible for that? It's just a bit of a tricky situation.
Area. Yeah, so I think
absolutely. And board maker, yes.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah,
that's another tricky situation. Last year, because we used to have a board maker on a hot desk, so everybody in the office had the access to that computer. We're no longer doing it, and so they cancel it and just giving one person in the office access to board maker. So this person needs to help everybody in the office using board maker, and I'm the license holder for our office. So that's definitely, but we're looking at having lesson picks as an alternative, like a more budgety alternative at the moment, just still waiting for some updates. AAC trainings for our SLTs.
We've got a few trainings available through our PRD system. I'm just talking mats, we've had lab training, peers and visions. And of course, you can apply to do CAT training, but they only take a couple of people, I think, for intake.
Yeah, I think like 5-6 people around each intake. That was like every half a year.
Over the offices.
Over the offices across Auckland. Key challenges. I'm just thinking for challenges more like there are external challenges and internal challenges. One external challenge that stands out for us is getting buy-in from families and ACEs, because we are mostly likely in early intervention team, the first people to introduce AAC to families and ACEs. And a lot of times it's really hard to get buy-in, especially facing the situation of lots of staff turnover and ACEs and teachers not getting paid enough, the ratio is not good enough. It's really, really hard to implement. And I guess it's a little bit different from working in other settings that teachers sometimes don't have the expectations and trainings before to understand why AAC is needed and how it can help with communication in general. Whereas internal, definitely forever ongoing challenges our workload and time spent with each child to support the trial process and to follow up with families. Unfortunately, the frequency of following up is not as much as we want it to be. It's just coming back to how how much workload and referrals we're getting. Yeah, so that's
Yeah, that sounds
cool. So that's us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy and you, Chen. Really nice to hear from you guys. And yeah, I think a lot of us can feel that with that first exposure being so important to our whānau and our teams for the implementation of AAC, and that time restraint we often have to do all that prep and all the heart and soul we put into that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Sorry, Claire, do you mind if I ask a really quick question?
No, all good. Let's
Just popped it in the chat. I just wondered, I know it might differ from office to office, but is training for AAC and upskilling in that area, is that a general expectation for SLTs at MOE? Is it sort of an individual, like down to their preference and interest?
That's a good question. I think more up to the individual. So I would like to say the ministry would lay out the options. And of course, because we work in a big office, and then you can always talk to someone, you can always find a Cat 1 therapist to talk to at some point. So we get their peer support a lot. But then I guess signing up for the PLD, specific PLDs, is more depending on the selection from the PLD department or team, because there will be a lot of people applying for it, but only limited spots. So it's really up to you if you want to apply for it, or if you will be able to get the opportunity eventually.
Okay, that's useful. Thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, Amy and you, Chen, we just have a couple of other questions in the chat. Bree has said, kia ora MOE, I'm wondering if you're all using the same standard core board or if there are lots of variations. It might be nice for there to be some consistency across services, especially thinking about children when they're transitioning from EI to school.
Absolutely. Hi, Bree. Bree used to be in our office for a little while. We actually do have a standard core board. I think we get the update from TalkLink, and then we will send it to our practice and implementation advisor to say how many your office want, and they will send to a manufacturer to manufacture A4 and A3 and fringes. So it's all standardized. So I would like to say we have quite good consistency
within our offices, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all through TalkLink, I believe, to get that.
Yes.
Cool, thank you. I think that's all.
Awesome, thank you. And so just to summarize what you guys said, it seems like you're doing quite a lot of those visuals and that core board work in the EI setting and things like that. And it seems like there are some of those constraints with that time and that team buy-in for those more robust systems as well as you go along. So it's doing a great job there. So thank you so much for sharing, you, Chen and Amy. Really, really great. Our next speakers are Lauren and Lily. And they're representing the special schools, that kind of transition period, although today's focus is on more of those pre-kind of school users. We thought it'd be really interesting to talk a little bit about that transition time and kind of reflect on how our communicators are when they're arriving, and if they're coming with that the supports we need, or if it kind of falls off in the team's priorities. So Lauren and Lily.
Cool. Thanks, Claire. So yeah, we're based at Oakland Special School. So we have a range of students from 5 to 21-year-olds who are based across multiple sites, including our base school and satellite classes. All of our students are AWS funded, and so they're all enrolled in school and eligible for speech therapy. And all of our juniors and every student accesses speech therapy through their class program, but also individually as kind of recognised through the PLP or IEP process. So at Oakland, we've got around 180 students, and we have 4 SLTs and a therapy assistant who supports us with running the classroom programs, like shared reading and predictable chart writing, which has been awesome. And yeah, we spread the class caseload out across all SLTs. We're all Cat 1 trained, so we're all applying and running our own trials in our own classrooms.
So the processes for accessing AAC at Oakland is most classrooms have a base level of AAC, Everyone has a core board. We have lanyards with symbols on. Some classes have big points, which is pretty cool, and all classes use a visual timetable. The need for further AAC, like let's say they need an iPad, is identified by the SLT and teacher collaboratively. Sometimes it's initiated by the whānau. We'll then have a discussion with the whānau and just see if it's a priority for them, get their consent. We like to do the trials. We'll do it at school, but then it's also done at home as well, so they need to be on board. The SLTs we prioritise based on our own caseload and the age and need of the student and class priorities. We have a selection of iPads with a range of apps. We mostly use Touch Chat, Prolo Quota Go, LAMP and Snapcore. And we have other tools to trial as well, like a Go Talk or a Step by Step or a Big Point. Like Lauren said, all SLTs here, we have CAT level 1, but we will refer to TalkLink if we have CAT 2 or a especially complex CAT 1 student.
Cool. So AAC training that we access, so we try and access anything that comes to New Zealand. So last year, all our SLTs and some teachers attended LAMP, which was awesome. And we keep an eye out for any really good webinars like the AAC and the cloud webinars, and anything put out by the app developers. So Lily and I most recently watched the Snapcore Motor intro by Toby, which was really interesting. And yeah, we're just constantly trying to upskill and keep up to date. Everything changes so quickly. And yeah, we love this AAC SIG for that as well. And also talking to our special school SLTs meeting where we're hearing what others are doing.
So the challenges can be that sometimes in a classroom we'll have a range of systems. For example, right now I have a classroom that has like an eye gaze and touch chat, and then they also have the core board, so lots of different things going on. And it can be sometimes a little bit challenging to get staff buy-in, though we're working on it. And we're trying slowly to change sections of using different systems and options to increase engagement of AAC across the school. Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Cool.
Awesome, thank you guys so much. Would you be able to share a little bit more, just because you guys are a little bit different, is that you're kind of the end of our transition kind of team? Would you be able to share a little bit on how you guys find transitions into it? And I know it's always complex and so different with different teams and priorities, and what kind of strategies you have and what challenges are around that kind of for you guys, and having systems versus not having systems and things like that too.
How will we find transitions? It's really interesting. I have noticed, jump in Lauren, but I have noticed a bit of a difference between the students who transition from MOE versus if they've transitioned from CCS. With CCS, sometimes they do have devices in place already that are just brought over, but not often with the MOE. How do you find that, Lauren?
Yeah, I think majority of our students are not really coming with any systems in place aside from the very select few. So we're really just starting, most of our classes, we're starting from scratch, and we tend to go and introduce all the junior classes use core boards, and most of them are using big points as a kind of step towards some low or mid tech work.
And for that as well, I imagine that the families and teams are very, very aware of AAC, and they've kind of been built up on those levels. So is that a nice trade-off as well? You get those teams and they are in probably a nicer learning space and more prepared for those things for you guys for your transitions.
It is. I have to say, from the conversations I have with the whānau about doing a trial, it generally isn't like too difficult to get buy-in. Yeah,
and our classroom teams, I think, because we've generally got quite good stability across the school, it's you know, everyone's using the same base level, so it's much easier to get buy-in from the staff around, hey, we want to do this. This is what it will look like.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren and Lily. It sounds really nice that you've got all those different needs and potentially our communication and things, as it always is for transitions, and no matter what we're working on can be really, really hard. But it sounds like all that base work that all of our EI providers are doing a great job in preparing our whānau and our children. So that's really, really great to know.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone from, whoops, that's the wrong one. Anyone from CDS that was here maybe want to say anything for Lisa and Hannah, or not so much? No, that's all good. What was
we're here. Sorry.
Oh, Melissa's here.
Yeah, and Melissa and Stella. Sorry, we were just typing something in the chat, so we were preoccupied.
Fine.
Hi, everyone. Do you want to talk to it, Stella, or do you want me to?
Yeah. Can they see us?
Yeah.
Oh. We can both. What is our service, Melissa?
Okay, so we are, well, Stella and I are based at Waitakere Hospital, so we mainly see children in the community who are age 0 to 2 with complex medical needs that usually includes feeding challenges and communication stuff, or sometimes just feeding. We don't tend to see kids under 2 who are only for communication. And when they turn 2, our kids who...
Over 2.
Yeah.
We see children, we don't tend to see children past the age of 2 who are only communication.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So when kids turn 2 and they need an ongoing service, we then refer on to either Ministry of Ed or CCS or Ohomairangi. So our processes for accessing AAC, we also have like a big box of equipment that we can trial.
A big box of old equipment.
Yes, we have very old equipment. So we recently did a stock take and most of it was no longer functioning.
You need to be retired.
Yes. So we've got some equipment that still works. We've got some Big Macs and step-by-steps and switches and things that we can use to trial. And then we usually get one of our Cat 1 therapists. So we're not all Cat 1 trained, but we do have a few therapists who are. So those people then help the rest of us to do applications for equipment at level 1. And obviously we're always kind of referring on kids who need referrals to TalkLink in the process. AAC training, we have very rubbish training here. I don't know if other CDS offices are the same, but it's really hard for us to access any paid training.
Oh my goodness.
You have to jump through hoops to get to do anything. So
and they're big hoops too. I'm in the process of applying. And there's like 2 levels of, not for AAC training, but there's 2 levels of for anything. Yeah. So like this ASHA conference that I'm on at the moment, I just paid for it myself.
Yeah, it's very hard to get funded.
It's really hard. Yeah. And you really have to pick and choose. So like I'm applying for funding for one thing for the whole year and the last few years. And then like you'll probably be applying for funding for anyway.
Yeah, it's tricky. So we're not as upskilled with AAC as we would like to be, I think is the gist of it.
And we do it ourselves. So that's where the ownership, we take ownership of our own learning. We were talking about that before, weren't we? And we upskill through finding trainings ourselves and going on them if they're free, paying it for ourselves if they're not, and then also coming to things like this to keep up to date with you guys.
It's very much like an as needs basis. So I've got a child at the moment who's using lots of AAC, so I've had to upskill in certain areas and talk to others and get some support for that. But before that, I haven't had a child really using AAC for months because all of my kids have been infant feeding. So it's not like our bread and butter really.
And do you mean, when you say AAC, do you mean technology based or do you mean low tech, no tech?
Any. Like if I don't have a lot of communication kids on my caseload, I won't be using AAC as such. So,
but we do use it throughout. So Melissa and I are running. I really enjoy doing this joint with you. Melissa and I are running although you've been doing it by yourself while I've been off sick. What is it called? Sing and Sign Communication Group, and we use AAC throughout that, and that's low tech picture choices.
Lots of Makaton
and New Zealand signing stuff.
So we do use it, but probably not as much as some of those of you in other settings, and that becomes a bit of a challenge because when we do have to use it, we're probably not as upskilled as we could be. So
yeah, what is challenges in the work we do with implementing it? I guess that's kind of it. It's been training, access, and that I also would put that as actually getting people to become Cat 1 therapists can be tricky. So, you know, technically it would be amazing if everybody on the service would be Cat Level 1 accredited. Currently that's not possible. And the other challenge is that they are not they're our exception, not our rule. So we are really feeding specialised here. Yeah. And I don't know if that's different across the different CDS services. So yeah. Hope that helps.
Sorry, I just thought there's a question in the chat. I was just checking
if
that was for us.
Relevant to us.
Is it for us? Melissa and Stella work at Spectrum Care. Started a 2-year service. Oh yeah,
that's for a question I asked. Anyway, we're going to mute ourselves unless anybody has any questions for us.
No worries. Thank you so much for picking up the baton. I just wanted to ask you guys where your hubs are, where you guys are located across the motu and things like that.
New Zealand, across New Zealand. So recently you have heard of the merger of all the DHBs in New Zealand have merged into what is now called Te Whatuora Health NZ. And so our hubs in Auckland are here at Waitakere Hospital, North Shore Hospital, and Auckland, and we're still, so Waitemata District are those two places, North Shore Hospital and Waitakere, and then you've got Auckland District, which they've changed their name, and I don't know it, sorry.
Yeah.
Lots of changes. Which is at Starship, based at Starship. They've got a community team and an inpatient team there, and then South Kids First. They changed their name as well.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's in Auckland. And then around the motu, it's anywhere that there was a child development team or like any district health board, but I don't know where all of their like offices would be.
But we're usually hospital based, but then working in the community.
Yeah.
So we're linked to a hospital.
Yeah. And some of us, so like before, while I was working full time, I would cover both the inpatient wards as well as the hospitals. And the other girls, the ladies, Christy, like she covers community but also the SCABU. So whereas at Starship, the inpatient team, they don't do community, so we all kind of work slightly differently. The inpatient team at Starship are really specialised in inpatients, and they also do some outpatient clinics, and then they have a separate team that only does community. I'm not sure what they do out south.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And then at Waitemata District, we have some clinicians, usually the part-timers, that work only in the community, and then you have the usually full-timers that work both inpatients and outpatients. And so it's also, I guess that might also be a challenge around like the balancing of
who gets trained
all those different hats, in practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for stepping up and sharing that with us today. So that's all of our speakers. So from now, what's going to happen is
sorry, just before we jump into breakout groups, I just thought maybe could you just speak quickly from TalkLink? So what do you guys do?
We can do that.
And just because you're the other AI,
I sure can.
Service, and then
we can do that. So I'm from TalkLink. It's my TalkLink. So we in the EI kind of setting, we have it slightly different. So we've got different priorities with our P1s being those degenerative diseases, and then our P2s are our under 4s. And for those under 4s, we try to kind of get to the teams within kind of 12 months or less, to be there really with that timeline to try to get something in place before going off to school and before going forward as well. We do lots of different things. We support teams and we support Cat 1 training, and then we also offer supervision as well, and then we do a lot of Cat 2 bits and pieces with them. Whether it's Cat 1 or Cat 2, we do a lot of collaboration and support. So we do that specialised assessment, come in with a number of you lovely SRTs who worked with before or have worked with us and work together to kind of get some trials in and a device in place, hopefully, and then we kind of jump out and leave the implementation to continue with you guys after trainings as well. If Fern or Paul or anyone wants to jump in and say anything else, feel free to.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, the idea with the priority ratings for our under fours is the idea that then if somebody has a comprehensive AAC system in place, once they are, before they get to school or as they're transitioning to school, then when they are at school, if they're needing a review of that communication system, it's not necessarily a full assessment because they already have something in place. And so then in theory, we would hope that that would help reduce our overall weight, because instead of needing to do a full assessment of children at school aged, we would be more reviewing their needs based on what they've previously had. So it's sort of trying to see if there's ways that we can expedite our wait times and things for people. And I think just what Claire was saying is, you know, we go across a whole range of settings. So we do acute work in the early years if that's indicated, and people are prioritized based on their needs. So somebody is seeing a client in the Waikato at the moment who has got a progressive condition and they're 18 months old, and then we've got our developmental disorders. And the other thing that you should find is that referrals are made and they're triaged by myself and 2 other clinicians across the motu, and then we determine if there are things that we can put in place or that we can recommend to put in place in the interim. So we might contact you and say, oh, hey, have you thought about trying X, Y, or Z? And we'll send you the resources that would go with that you can try out. Or we might send you links to our, you know, Facebook page or our YouTube channel, anything that we can do to support you to be using strategies while you wait for our service, because we know that the wait is not ideal, and what we're trying to do is equip people in that interim period so that when it does come up for assessment, our assessment can be quick and efficient. So that's me.
Sure, awesome. Thank you so much, Fern. Yeah, so that's a bit about TalkLink. Just very aware of time now as well. So now we're heading off into breakout rooms. I'm making them so you can assign yourself to a room. We're aiming to have 5 per group, so everyone can have a say and have a chat. So there's a number of rooms with the same kind of title. If that room has heaps and heaps of people, feel free to jump back and then join a different room as well. If you've got any questions, I'll stay here to kind of guide you through it. The questions, if you feel free to take a little copy and paste or a photo of what they're at the bottom. These are the kind of questions we are hoping to ask, so that who is implementing AAC within your service, and what forms do you frequently use, what's working, what's not working, what would be your ideal perfect in the world, and what is doable, what is achievable or a growth step for your context. If you could also nominate someone to type these up so that they can send to us at the AAC SIG team, we will collate it all and send it all out afterwards. I'm just aware of time, so I'm going to open all the rooms now. So you should be able to jump to them and have a go. And if you can't, let me know. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much. So if we could just get the person or people who wrote down all those ideas and thoughts to flick them through to our SIG email, and we will kind of collect them, put them through. It'll be really interesting to kind of see what everyone's perfects are and what the current challenges are, to see if there's some things that line up as well. And we will just be finishing up for today, so thank you again for coming, and I'll close with karakia whakamutinga, ino tātou, ki tātou manaakitanga, ki runga, ki tēnā o tātou, kia piki i te ora, kia piki te mai, kia hoki pai atu, kia hoki pai mai, tuturu, whakamaua, kia tīna, huie, paukie. So just blessing kind of our ideas, our thoughts, and our profession as a whole, and what kind of ideas and things that we have come from our hui today, and just encouraging us to all kind of go forward from here and kind of think and progress more. Also, just a reminder that although our profession is small, we can make great changes, and we're not alone. So reminding us not to work in silos, but to come together to work. Yeah. So thank you so much. If anyone's got anything they want to, a question or want to pop out, feel free to say that. Otherwise, feel free to log off. It's been great seeing everyone today. I hope you have a lovely day. Happy day.
Sorry, just a quick question. So I just a matter of my own interest. For the ministry, and I heard that some are ditching Boardmaker and preference for lesson picks. Is that purely because of cost of the license?
Hello. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to know, because I'm private practice, so I have both lesson picks and Boardmaker. I mean, I have to pay for it myself. Yeah, that's private practice for you. I found that the Boardmaker, you can get more New Zealand focused symbols and vocabulary, whereas lesson picks is a lot more Americanized. So I tend to, when I do my visuals, use the Boardmaker that matches more like a cool board than the lesson picks. I use more lesson picks for kind of artic and language work. I just wanted to know, is it Boardmaker's too expensive, or what do people think?
Yeah, I think it's the cost. I think that's the reason why we are not supplying Boardmaker to all offices, but only to people now. So more because of the cost. And then they're discussing about lesson picks coming to offices, but it's still in progress. I think there's some IT issues in the background going, and then our practice advisors really trying to push it, like to get everybody, or at least like multiple people lesson picks in each office, but it's just not happening right now. So yeah, cost.
No, I mean, lesson picks is great, don't get me wrong. I use heaps.
I know.
I do find it limiting. So I've been using lesson picks for the last 3 years now.
Tai Tokiro, we have one person in each of our 3 offices has a Boardmaker license, so that's for a single person, but every SLT has access to lesson picks. So it's like recognizing that sometimes Boardmaker will be the best tool, but it's limited access, and most of the time you can do what you need on lesson picks, and it did come down to cost. But
Such a shame, but yeah, I understand budget. All right, thank you.